When is it a good time to take out a mortgage? Honestly, the best time to take out a mortgage is when you have a good reserve and when you can put a good down payment on a property. Now, I assume that you're talking about purchasing a property. However, if you're talking about borrowing from a property, I don't highly recommend that. Only because I believe that you should be able to buy a property and be able to, from the cash flow, save up the money to buy the next property. Now, if you're going to take out a mortgage, I would suggest doing it when you purchase a property, if you're going to take out a mortgage at all. For instance, on the Excel spreadsheet that I made for you on would you be able to buy 100 properties, 100 units within before you get too old, I set up the account to say that you would always have at least $10,000 in your bank account, so that's a reserve. And I also said that you would put 20% down on every property that you bought for your mortgage properties. And that's what I'd highly suggest you do. If you put 20% down on every property that you buy and you're holding a reserve, a substantial reserve, now I kept it at $10,000 to make it easy, but as long as you kept increasing that, if you have a reserve of 20% of all of your property's value set aside, then you shouldn't ever have a problem, because anytime you need to make a mortgage payment, you should be able to. 20% of every property is a lot of money. However, if you're going to have mortgages, you need to have something that will negate the risk that you're taking on by having a mortgage. Now, I would say at some point you want to pay off the properties that you have, but as you can see in the Excel spreadsheet, you can accumulate wealth very quickly if you're borrowing. So to get started, if I was getting started and I was a young buck, I would probably get started by buying property outright by saving up my money. However, if I was in my 30s or 40s or 50s and I was trying to get started for the first time, I would probably borrow to buy my first property. And once I had an established rent from that and saved up enough to buy another property as well as the reserve fund, then I would do that as well. I would keep borrowing money until I could fix and flip, or until I had enough rentals that I could start paying off a couple of the properties. When I felt that I had enough income that I could quit my job, I would actually stop buying property, take the cash flow from my job, and I would take the cash flow from the properties and slam it on the properties to pay them off as quickly as possible, if I was trying to do this as a 30, 40, or 50-year-old. But as a 20-year-old, like I said, I would probably buy property debt-free. I would save up my money to do that. As somebody who's in their 20s or in their teens, late teens or in their 20s, it's fairly easy to save up money while you're living with your parents. Once you advance a little bit more in your age and you get up to your 30s, 40s, and 50s, as Stuart, you said you're 31, that's when it gets a little bit more complicated. You've got a job with $50,000 a year. You said you've already got started with mobile homes. So you've got a good start. You've got rental income coming in. And so what I would say at this point is take the rental income you have, build up a reserve, and then once you have the reserve, maintain it. Then take the extra income on top of that and build up by another property. I have no problem buying property with a mortgage. I'm not Dave Ramsey. I just suggest that Dave Ramsey's solutions for people's problems, because it really does help out. Getting out of debt really does help you advance your wealth. So, Stuart, I hope that answers your question. If you have any other questions, please feel free to comment below. You as well, not just Stuart. Any of you can ask questions below, and I will answer them as soon as I can and as best as I can. All right, thanks, guys.